The wonderful thing about photography is that it's a solo act. It's just me and the camera.
The common denominator is that we all want to make something beautiful, something relatable, something we can look at and say, shit, yeah, man, that turned out better than I thought.
Hey, welcome to the Street Shots Photography Podcast. This is Antonio.
And this is Ward.
And this is episode 206 for someday in the future. Sorry, for the end of, I'm just like, I'm spacing out. For the end of April 2024. Already we're in the end of the fourth month of this year, a quarter of the way through.
Springtime in the Northern Hemisphere.
Yes. Springtime. Yeah. We're having a very long spring here. I don't know about you, but it's just been, although today was 70 degrees. Today's Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And tomorrow, Monday, it's supposed to be 85 here, which is almost air conditioner weather. So
for me, the temperature got up as high as 48 degrees Fahrenheit. And
that's actually that's a nice temperature.
Yeah, but it will be
just in the 50.
It will be in the high 30s midweek.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's if you want to say it's a long
50.
spring, we call it what do we call it? There's this part of the country have like 7 seasons. One is like despair.
It's false.
Yeah, it's
spring.
fall spring. Yes.
Yeah.
Winter of our
I've seen that
discontent. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, when I don't know if it happens with you guys, but when we have a cold spring, like the flowers last for a very long time, and the trees seems like they take a longer time to come out.
Mm-hmm.
So the green is like nice and slow, and just feels like this nice, like elongated kind of beautiful time. Although it gets kind of cold, like last week, we had temperatures down to the 30s, and it was windy,
mm-hmm.
and it was flipping cold.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, but it just seems to we have these tulips in front of our building. The gardeners planted nice tulips, and it's almost like botanic garden quality. Like they look really nice. You walk around my neighborhood, some of the areas, some of the buildings are houses in our neighborhood. They're just it's like walking through a botanic garden. People
Very cool.
Really nice thing. So it's the longer these last, the nicer it is. So yeah, I was walking around today with my camera, taking some pictures to show people, like, look at our area. Look what it's nice.
Wow.
Look how nice.
No, for us, it's just the green around the edges of people's lawns and in their backyards. Wow. And that's it. There's there's crocuses that have come up in the middle of Marcy's garden in the front yard.
You guys have cherries too? Cherry trees?
No, we don't have. We'll have now. It's
not the right environment.
It's not the right environment. We have It's a kind of a cherry. It's like a mock cherry that you can that grows here, but it's not a true cherry tree.
But it still flowers.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. But that's not for another 2, 3, 4 weeks. When there's blossoms, and it'll be mid-May when the apples blossom. Crab apple trees and so on.
Our cherries, our all the trees are now blossoming, and we lost the magnolias. Those things don't last that long anyway. They get butchered by, you sneeze on them and they turn brown.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, but it's really nice. It's I like the longer springs. So, but tomorrow 85. Okay, sure, whatever. But anyway, so that's the weather. For all those people who are listening to this in the far future, so much for an evergreen show, right? It's going to be, well, who cares about the weather on April of, 2024? So how are you in general?
Really good. I'm a little tired. I went to an event in a town in a little city about an hour and a half away, east of here, called Drumheller. I got to document through my own fine art vision the successful Guinness Book attempt at the maximum number of people who've gathered together in inflatable dinosaur costumes. some
A sentence
2,000
that has
or
probably
more.
never been said until today, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. How many?
Over 2,000, they estimate.
What was the previous record?
Less than 200.
Whoa.
So we kicked the stuffing out of that one.
And you've got photos of this?
I have photos of this. I have coverage, and I have my idea of fine art, like a guy walking around in an inflatable dinosaur costume. I'm trying to turn it into art, man.
Yeah, well, 2,000 of them, that's a natural art project right there. It goes beyond Guinness Book of World Records. That is human art, or the dinosaur art.
There was a band there, the color, the noise, the music, the families together. Like, it was fun to just be around something that you do just for the fun of it. There was no, you got to do this. There's no seriousness. There's no heaviness in it. And that was amazing. And it's like, even as we're still recovering from, the end times, whatever you want to call them, the pandemic, there's still this like, oh, this is something we can actually do and have fun and do something different.
Yeah. And in the moment, and then the energy,
yeah.
And when you have a group of people, any kind of large group of people, and everybody's doing the same thing, there's something special that comes out of that. And then you're photographing it, which is got to be an incredible experience, just to be looking at all this stuff, and like, where do you start, and how do you?
And one of my
everybody looks the same. All the dinosaurs are the same.
Yeah. One of my street photography acquaintances was the official who flew the drone over everyone, and I guess the Guinness organization is using AI to count the number of people in the street to give the official count.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm curious how that works.
Yeah, I'm curious too. So we'll find out about it in the next few days, and it'll be interesting.
Well, you certainly, you could probably tell that you beat it, but you got to figure out the exact number of people, or at least the closest that you can get. Yeah. For the next one, because the next one they're going to try to beat it by one person, or one dinosaur, I should say.
Yeah.
But then all the people who are there now, they all have these dinosaur costumes.
Yeah. What's your point?
Right? So you can always break it again. You have to add another.
Well, that's true. If the event's going to be nearby,
buy one more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
that's great. I got to see these pictures. We got to share at least one of these pictures. And for those people who are in the record attempt who might be listening to the show, please send a picture.
Yes, absolutely.
From the inside of one of these suits.
There were some familiar faces in the crowd there. So
how could you tell?
Well, no, not the ones that were dressed in dinosaur costumes, but friends of mine.
Okay. I see.
My artist friend Vicky, and Carrie Schatz, who did the drone work. Yeah, no, it was very cool.
Oh, awesome! To experience something like that, I think I was telling you offline that the closest that I think we've had here was the SantaCon, which happens around Christmas, and it's the thing that you don't want to be around. Because
it's a different vibe. It's a different demographic.
Different vibe. It is turned into this. There's one thing about seeing thousands of Santas. That's got a bit of a fun thing to it. But the problem is that they all go bar hopping, and then they end up throwing up on the subways, and it becomes this red plague. If you're watching it from above with a drone, you're seeing these, and nobody's wearing the beards. They're just wearing the hats and the coats, and you just want to leave town when this pestilence sort of meanders around the city and goes up the train. You just don't want to be here. I propose that you guys all come to New York in Christmas and bring those T-Rex costumes and put a little red hat on it. And then, we could see that just built in.
We'll close down Broadway, man.
Yeah, and people can't drink. You can't. Well, actually, you probably could drink in those suits, right? I think you probably can. Through the screen.
My wife and her girlfriend. It is possible to withdraw your arms and have a little nip. Yes,
Inside
the
costume,
costume,
right?
yes.
Oh, see, that was okay. Yeah,
But bear in mind that there were a lot of families here. That was not the spirit of the thing, right?
right.
But
yeah, this is all frat boys.
right.
And if anybody's listening to this who's in SantaCon, I'm sorry if I'm insulting you, but it's ridiculous and it's got to stop because it's enough already. You guys have taken over the. Anyway, okay, we're
done.
Going
we're
into
done.
Christmas. We're done with the
Pictures
holidays
pending.
and stuff. So pictures pending. We'll put that in the. I'll put that in the show notes for you guys. So anyway, well, while you're, documenting thousands of Tyrannosaurus Rexes doing their thing, I went to a photo show in the city, which is a yearly show called the AIPAD. Well, it's a show from this organization called AIPAD, and it's the AIPAD stands for the Association of International Photography Art Dealers. So AIPAD, they call it the photography show. And I think last year, it was last year I went and had a little, I think I probably talked about it on the show back then. And this year it was in a different location than it was last year. Last year's location was kind of cool, but this one is even cooler. It was an empty armory on Park Avenue in 63rd to 64th Street, which literally takes up the entire block.
Wow.
And so if you know what a city block looks like, it goes from 63rd to 64th, let's say, or 64th to 65th. Not sure the exact. And then from Park Avenue to Lexington Avenue.
Wow.
So it was an armory, where they kept arms and stuff for soldiers and stuff like that. And now it's used for art exhibits. So it's a giant dome structure and like an empty castle in some way.
Wow.
And the AIPAD has had their shows there in the past. Last year was the first show from after the pandemic. This one's felt bigger in a lot of ways because the space was bigger. So anyway, I signed up for 3 days. I only went for Friday and Saturday. I didn't go today. I thought I'd take the day off. I was just like, I've seen a lot. And I walked through with my video camera. So I'm going to post up on YouTube just a walkthrough.
Okay.
So you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to edit that and put that up.
Any highlights that you can share now?
Well, yeah, no, I'll share some highlight. Well, first of all, you go through a show like that. First, it feels like you're going to, I hate when I say that. For me, when I go through a show like that, I feel as if I'm in a museum that's been like concentration, like it's a concentration of art, right? Like frozen concentrated orange juice is frozen concentrated photography. And because it's all these galleries that are showing, there's a lot of old photography. There's a lot of historic photography. There's a lot of new photography, new styles and stuff like that, new photographers. And they're all galleries, right? So they're showing off what they have. You can buy prints there. They have some galleries will have. Yeah, I was looking through one of the matted print displays that they had. And, I'm picking up a print. I can't remember who the photographer was. It's like $10,000, right? And it's just in a matted print. I came across. Hang on. There was a Brett Weston shot. Edward Weston. Ooh. Edward Weston shot of Dunes Oceano, 1936. It's a gelatin silver print mounted on an illustration board, dated, initialed and dated in pencil on mount. Signed, titled, and dated, blah, blah, blah. Private collector, $120,000.
Okay.
And I'm staring at this print right in front of my face. It's actually probably a little bit smaller than 8x10. And I'm not even sure if that's the right, but there's a lot of imagery there where the prices were straight off the, okay.
Yeah. You look at the price and go, sure, yeah, not me.
Sure. Well, there were some pictures there that were nice, that were like in the less than $1,000 range. And, if I was a collector, I might buy them. I'm not a collector of photography like this. Like, I look at it and I appreciate it, but it's lost on me in the sense, like, it would just not be I'm not the right person to own it. I don't mind having a print of some of the imagery like hanging up on my wall, but not as a collection
Right.
kind of thing. But, you know, coming across, oh my gosh, who is this? Let's see. I'm looking at all these pictures. There's one photographer's work. What was her name? Deborah
Turbeville?
Turbeville, yeah. Deborah Turbeville, and it was a whole bunch of her Polaroids.
Mm-hmm.
All these Polaroids that she had made while for other shoots,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of them were the old ones that turn brown, like sepia if you're not properly.
Yeah.
And they were themselves the art pieces as well. And I was totally drawn to those.
Mm-hmm.
There were these great little sequences they're doing, and the fading colors and the scratches and the prints were kind of bent. And I don't think none of that was, you know, made to be that way. It wasn't like she affected the prints.
Right.
These were just like prints that she had in a box someplace that she stored from shoots, and then took them out, and they're like masking tape is turned yellow and stuff like that. So those were really fun to look at. One photographer's work which caught my eye was this woman named Francesca Woodman.
Mm-hmm.
And she had photographed a bunch of nudes and stuff. A lot of them were in Providence, Rhode Island. Actually, one of her prints was again another one for like $60,000, and this was like this small print. I was really, again, I'm curious because I'd never heard of her work before. I'm not this.
I didn't know the name. I can't. I knew Deborah Turbeville a little bit. No, I know of her,
but not Francesca.
But not Francesca Woodman.
No. This print's a picture of three nudes in Providence, Rhode Island. Again, well, I'm not, and there's a red dot on it, by the way.
Yeah.
So it was an $80,000 print. Now, of course, there's lots of, you know, we're talking about the history of photography here. There was a William, was a Talbot shot there. So we were talking about like the origins of photography,
pencil of nature, and so on.
Yeah, there was a whole wall, by the way, of and we have to do a deep dive on Tony Vaccaro. On his work. I met him once, and he signed one of his books for me, leaving Germany, or no, entering Germany. So it was the end of the world, when he was with the soldiers entering Germany after World War II's ended. But there was a lot of his other pictures there. Like there's this great shot of Jimi Hendrix and Mick Jagger in front of what looks like, I think is a Porsche or something like that.
Okay.
This other great shot of a woman standing in front of the Guggenheim, and she's wearing a hat that looks like the Guggenheim.
Yeah, I know that. I think I know that picture.
Great
yeah,
shot.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. So, I mean, it's an endless. It's like I took lots of pictures. Was the nice thing about that place is that nobody busts your chops about, you know, everybody's walking in with their phone and everybody's taking pictures of the photos off the wall. So now I've got plenty of stuff for my photo journaling.
Okay.
By the way, you know, because I'm not so concerned with, you know, necessarily the quality. I'm more concerned about getting the picture. But there's just I come out of that. Well, first of all, it's the same thing that you were in a way describing about the experience with the Tyrannosaurus people. It's like an overwhelmingness. I'm walking around there with my mouth open, like I'm going to catch flies, because again, I'm seeing stuff that is from my history, from what I've read about, you know, like everything that we talk about, it's there, it's concentrated, and people are talking photography. There's a, you know, there's a lot of gallery talk, and there's people buying stuff, and you know, I'm not in that crowd. Obviously, I'm in the crowd of just like, I want to look at pictures, and it's hard not to come out of that show with a lot of feelings. So for me, it was like, you know, I ended up doing a long walk to the subway. Instead of taking the close subway, I did a longer walk to the subway. So I walked up to 57th Street and then across the 6th Avenue. So it's a bit of a walk, about a mile walk, but with my camera, because, like, you know, I'm jazzed to take pictures. Nothing is going to come out, like nothing is going to come looking, but it's an energy, right? Yeah. And there's also this part of me that again, this is not it's not the predominant part, but I would be lying to say if it's not there. It's like, what the hell am I doing? You know, it's like, I see all this photography and this work and this beauty, and I cannot help but compare what I do to what these what I'm seeing in this stuff. Now that's not fair. I get it, but I'd be lying to say it doesn't happen. You come back and to say, well, these kind of pictures or this look or something like that. I'm not going to get pictures that are going to sit in the gallery between, 63rd Street and 57th and 8th, yeah. But I want to, but I'm not. And I just come out thinking like, what am I doing? And it can take it two ways, like as motivation to do more, which is fine. Take it to also be, there have been a lot of photographers. There's it's a pyramid, right? In a sense that there's that small group of photographers at the top of the pyramid who are high functioning, who are doing their thing, and that's I think that's in any field, right? And we ought not to, in general, feel bad about it, and I can't help but feel bad about it sometimes. So it's a mix. It's a real mix, and it's not a bad thing. I don't think that's bad, and I'm not beating myself up or it's not doing any of the bad stuff. Like there is an inspiration. So there's that. And so I went on Saturday as well. I did the same walk around. I looked at things a little bit closer. I talked to a few more people. I missed what's his name, who was supposed to be there.
Roger Deakins.
Roger Deakins was there doing a book signing. I missed him because I got there past 1:00 when he was talking. I did see Bruce Gilden. But I didn't take a picture of him. He was in the publishing section. There was a section with books. Oh, good news is I only walked out of that show with one book.
Okay. Well, that's not necessarily good news. Well, maybe you should have a half a dozen.
Well, no, it is for my wallet.
Oh, for your wallet. I see.
For my wallet. Yeah.
Speaking of collectors,
there was a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there was a lot of books there. They had actually a larger book section than they did last time, so that's why I think this was a bigger show. There was a lot more publishers there in a separate section, and there was some really nice Japanese books, and I was looking for photographers that I knew because I didn't want to suddenly just pick up a book and buy something. So that kept me away from a lot of the books. I did on my way out find a Ruth Orkin book called Women, and I stopped and I looked at it, and like I'm aware of her work, kind of. It's just street photographer, but this book was all photographs of women in the 40s and 50s
on the street, like street photography of women.
Oh, not just street photography. No, there was street. There was portraiture. There was like some investigative stuff. There was like behind the scenes of movies with some actresses, like Angie Dickinson was in some of the shots.
Cool.
There was a following. It seemed I didn't look at the names yet of the people who were in the pictures, but there was one. Like multiple shots of the same woman in different situations, like at home and at a job or something like that. And it's very much, there was a lot of New York feel to some of the pictures. And there was just that time period. It's before my time, but like I have some sort of resonance with that time period and in the photography. So it was $40 and I thought, okay, well, that's reasonable. Right. So I walked out with that book and it's a great book. It's maybe we should do a deep dive on Ruth Orkin.
Cool.
Because I think maybe people know about her, but yeah. So anyway, who else? There's endless stuff. There's one photographer that would have fit our previous show. I was talking about Wilhelm Hammershøi, right? And I came across a photographer whose work. Some of the pictures resonated. Her name was Ilona. I'm gonna pronounce this wrong, so forgive me. Langbroek, Langbroek, Dutch.
Okay.
But she has a series called Silent Loss, and there was some imagery in there that I swear was inspired by like a Hammershøi style photography. But there's also figures in these things as well. So it was really. It's great to see, and it was great to walk up to pictures and like not look at the plaque, or sometimes the names weren't there, and I was like, I know who that is,
right?
Like I knew a Gustave Legray when I see it.
Yeah.
I was like,
Oh, Gustave Le Gray. Cool.
Myself.
Then those are they're vintage prints too, are they? Or many of them?
They were the vintage prints.
Wow.
Yeah, I went up to one of them and I was like, I looked at it and it made me smile. You know, I must have looked like an idiot because I'm walking around there. I was, besides my mouth being open, but my mouth was open in a smile because it was, I don't know how you can't walk around this stuff and not feel moved and in awe of it. And so when I saw this Le Gray photograph, the print, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, I don't even have to look at the name. And I looked at his name was signed on the print. And I was like, that's a Gustave Le Gray. Like, I know that. And so I was very proud of myself to say, okay, the stuff is sticking.
You know your stuff, man.
Yeah, I know some of my stuff. I know, the basic stuff. I know the Westons and stuff like that. But there were pictures from people who like, oh gosh, I can't remember. I can't remember some of the names, but I was a bit surprised that these were pictures from this person. That didn't strike. Martin, some of early work from Martin Parr.
Okay,
because his work was really a lot different than it is now.
Black and white, and it was more documentary, like straight up documentary, kind of inky blacks, the Welsh miners and so on. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like these were abandoned cars on the side of it. It's a lot of bit of the humor in it,
Yeah.
But so there's that surprise. There's the, I did see a picture of somebody I know. It
cool.
was a photo. Yeah, well, it's a photograph by Terry O'Neill. And I'll put this in the show notes. So it's a shot behind the scenes of a movie, and it's Frank Sinatra walking with an entourage, and to Sinatra's right is a guy dressed up in the exact same suit. And his name is Alex Stevens. And he was Frank Sinatra's stuntman for a lot of films. And so he was friends with Frank Sinatra. Anyway, Alex Stevens was someone I grew up with. So I knew him. Cool. He was a stuntman. He was the president of the East Coast Stuntmen's Association. He dated my mom, and my mom worked in the stunt organization. And so I'm walking around and I'm looking at the print, and I just started to chuckle because I'm like, oh, and now I can see who that, I've seen the picture before, but I didn't know who the photographer was. And I was like, Terry O'Neill. I was like, oh, that's interesting. And, I go and I take a close up picture of it. And, Alex Stevens does not look anything like Frank Sinatra, other than like their body might be the same.
Right.
And they're wearing the same suit, but facial wise, there's nothing. But anyway, like I was, to see that connection, to look at the picture and say, oh, I know this guy, and now I know who the photographer is. And, here's someone from my past. That there was that 6 degrees of separation kind of thing kicked in. So I don't know. It was just, maybe 2 days was enough because it is very overwhelming. And at a certain point, like how many times can you see the same pictures? But, if anybody can go to a show like this, if you're around someplace, I mean, I'm privileged because I'm in New York and this is where they have the show all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's any chance for you to go see something like this, go to it. It is just indescribable. If you love photography, and just don't go with your checkbook because you might be tempted.
Just go appreciate the work. Yeah. Yeah.
And you know what? There was some modern stuff that I was really pulled into. There was one picture. I'll just talk about it quickly. It was a big picture. It was a 45 by 33 inch chromogetic print by someone named James Welling. It was called Torso 1 through 18. It's a limited edition of 5. It was $15,000. But it was this great image of, let me look at it closely here. The screen material that you have for Windows, the screening material, for your screen doors and stuff like that. Yeah. It was this material cut just into this strip and just sort of hung there, and it's blue and the background is blue, but it's folded in such a way that it mimics, and it almost mimics a human form. I don't think it was like folded to look human. It just looks like the way it's draping.
Wow.
It kind of reminds me in some way of the, the Edward Weston shot of Pepper number 30, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It like in that same vein. It's like the pepper itself is not human, but it evokes humanness.
Right.
To it.
You pattern match and like, oh, this is like a human form.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now this one is called Torso, so it's obviously designed or was made, or shot to look human, but it's got that same feel, like it's this found object. And I was really pulled to this picture. I mean, this would be like, if I was gonna, I don't know, if I was gonna make one choice of some photograph to buy, like I think I might love this, because I really enjoy that kind of idea where a photographer can make something look like something else.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something very what's the word? Something, I don't know. Like the photographer can notice something. Someone who can notice this, who can see something in something else, that, like, I'm gonna say civilians don't see, but that people who are not photographers or maybe not artists don't see it. It's like almost like a secret language. Anyway, so yeah, I mean, that's saying a lot. But if I did have to run out with one picture, like if I had all the money and I had to run out with one, I think this would be the one, because all the other ones, even the old stuff, is like, collectors. This one to me looks like something that's just beautiful to look at. Like have that thing hanging up in front of the wall all the time and just being able to stare at it and stuff and have my imagination go. Anyway,
cool.
So yeah, really, really, really good experience. And what was I going to say? There was so that was my weekend. So it sounds like we both had some interesting weekends.
Yeah.
Sometime during the past 2 days, I got sort of wind of some celebrity photographers, meaning not a celebrity photographer, like a famous photographer, but a celebrity who is also a photographer. So I thought maybe we could talk about those people.
Yes, we can.
I know last week we were talking about, newly found photographers, and I was like, well, I was not aware of certain celebrities who pick up the camera and take pictures.
Yeah. And we're not talking about necessarily, or I don't think any of the examples we're going to talk about tonight are just doing it for vanity. They're actually very good photographers that we would have their books, and I have some of their books. So that's one thing. When we're talking about celebrity photographers, we're not just talking about celebrities who happen to pick up a camera. These are actually artists with a camera. Before you kind of poo-poo what we're about to talk about here.
Yeah, and again, I still feel like I'm learning about photography and photographers, and so some of these people that are on the list, I know, like I know they're photographers, but not all of them. Like I didn't know, all these people were. So let's go through your list first, and then we'll follow with mine. But I have something to say about.
All right,
your people. Yeah.
Okay, so if we're going to start with celebrity, think about Hollywood first. And so there are
Hollywood.
Two gentlemen that in my mind stand out the most, and they are Dennis Hopper and Jeff Bridges. Now, both of them, what binds them together, besides that they're both Hollywood actors, one thing we appreciate about photography, particularly in sports and things like that, is their privileged access to the event. Like, you're shooting a hockey game, right. You get to have big strobes in the venue and blah, blah, blah. You're there. And because you are in a privileged position, you can take pictures of things that normal humans can't. And so that's where these two guys come in to play. With Dennis Hopper, he did in his earlier film career, early 60s, so from 61 to about 67, he was very, very active, and he was 35 millimeter Tri-X shooter, black and white. And he covered his life with his co-stars and behind the scenes and on the set. And so you get a privileged access into the creative process of making movies and flattering portraits of his co-stars. So he was most active in early and mid 60s, and actually a book from Taschen of his has just come back into print. It's
Oh,
called
really?
it's called Dennis Hopper Photographs, 1961 to 1967. It's from Taschen. I think it's $100 US, and it's huge. It's almost 500 pages. So if you're into that, and if you're a Dennis Hopper fan and you like that sort of Hollywood 60s thing, that there's an opportunity for you. Now, Jeff Bridges, what's that?
Well, before we go to Jeff, I wanted to talk about Dennis Hopper for a second, because we did talk about one of his pictures that he took through a car window of Los Angeles a while back.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the context of the show is, but I remember that picture that he took, and I think there was a essay written about it. But anyway, when so Hopper he put down his camera like in the early 70s, so he didn't continue photography. But if he was in Apocalypse Now as an American photojournalist, he shows up towards the latter half of the film.
Mm-hmm.
And he's covered with like Nikon cameras. He's got a bandana. He's got the sunglasses on. He's got the vest with all the stuff on it. He looks incredibly natural in that part. And when I saw Apocalypse Now when I was a kid, my mom took me to see it, we won't talk about. Might not be the best movie for a kid to see back then, but anyway, I saw it, and when I saw Dennis Hopper, I wanted to be him. And I do feel that seeing him playing that role as a photographer, which I didn't know he was a photographer, but he was playing that role naturally, that he sort of guided me a little bit into, at least when I was in school, I wanted to be a photojournalist, and I was wondering where that came from. And I think part of it came from his depiction of that. He was a really cool guy. Anyway, I just wanted to put that out about Dennis Hopper. So
very cool. I didn't know that. That's neat.
Oh, you didn't know that?
No.
I thought you told me.
Well, I knew he was
in.
I went to see Apocalypse Now too, and I
I did like.
Well, I did like. There was no. My mom didn't take me to see it. She just let me go, and so I just went.
Oh, okay. I went to the opening, so we were at a red carpet event.
Oh, very fancy.
Yeah, I know, but
wow,
because my mom was in the business, but yeah, he was so good in that. He was like, if is the middle word in life. Saying all this stuff. Anyway,
it was just on a side note. We lost Eleanor Coppola this week. She passed away.
Oh.
She's Francis Ford Coppola's wife. She did the documentary on Heart of Darkness.
Heart of Darkness.
The documentary about the making of the movie.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Jeez.
But it was just right to while we were in that mode. I was just thinking of her this week, actually. So we go from Dennis Hopper. The other Hollywood guy is Jeff Bridges. Now, Jeff Bridges is interesting because he uses different gear. He uses a wide lux panoramic camera.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And what is a wide lux? They call it and I just looked this up tonight. I just called it a panoramic camera.
I've used them.
Have you got to use one? How dare you?
Yes,
I've never used one. It's a
well, do you want me to say?
Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I mean, I could, since I used it. There's, I think, two versions of it. There's a medium format version and a 35 millimeter version. And I used the 35 millimeter version. And to be honest with you, I borrowed it from our brother in light, Keith Goldstein.
Oh, cool.
He has one, and he lent it to me for a weekend. And so it's a panoramic camera that has this very strange lens. It's like it's a cylinder, sort of a vertical cylinder in the front of the camera with a hole with a lens. And what it does is when you take a picture that spins around, not quite 180 degrees, but goes from left to right or right to left. I can't remember the direction. And the film gate in the back is very long. And so it records a panoramic image from left to right. It sort of scans the image when you're taking the picture. And it's this mechanical sound, right? It goes zzz, and then you get this giant sort of piece of film in the back that's panoramic. That's what I remember. I think, I'm not sure if you can do different lengths of panoramic. I can't remember. And I'm not sure if the film moves at the same time.
No, I don't think it does.
I don't think it does either.
No.
I know there are cameras that do that, but this one doesn't. And And so what you end up with is an image pretty much like if you're using the iPhone or Android phone to do a panoramic mode, like it's that kind of spinning event. And then horizontal lines are distorted, very, they're sort of curved. You get 2 vanishing points, stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going on too long about it.
Anyway, it's a very cool device. And so what Bridges has done is he has always brought this wide lux camera with him on set. And when there's a gap in the action, he shoots on the set. He often points it back at himself with his co-star or his director, or points it back at the camera.
A selfie with
behind.
Yeah.
Like he's got 2 books that came out. One was called just Jeff Bridges Pictures and Picture Volume. That was in 2004. And there's some images of on set that are quite stunning, and they're all very, this wide. I want to say it's 6 by 17 centimeters is the negative size, very wide.
Yeah.
And in the original book, there's the first book pictures. There's images that he took when he was working on The Big Lebowski. So if you're a Big Lebowski fan, man, you'll be impressed by that. There's a picture of him sitting with Sam Elliott in his the cowboy guy at the beginning and the end of the movie, the narrator shooting up, in the scene in the bowling alley. It's just a lot of fun. And that kind of insider thing and how this kind of warm feeling of Bridges books that kinds of bring you in, like, you're my guest, so, enjoy. So that's Hollywood. Sort of aside from Hollywood, the big Hollywood director that most of us know of, Stanley Kubrick, he started his career as a teenager working for Look magazine as a photographer.
Do you want to describe Look magazine?
Look magazine was a competitor to Life magazine, but it had much more of an emphasis on celebrity and Hollywood and lifestyle. And it was a big tabloidy kind of
an
oversized magazine. Lush images, fashion-y, celebrity kind of thing. And it was definitely good for, easy on the eyes to go through those magazines. So I think he started as a 19-year-old working for Look magazine, and he did
really?
Yeah.
19,
yeah.
Nice. He must have been doing his eye must have been really well developed.
Oh, absolutely. You go through
19, wow.
there's a book, another talking about Taschen books. There's a book of his work that came out called Stanley Kubrick Photographs Through a Different Lens. And it starts right at the very beginning of his career, almost everything that ran in Look magazine and right up until the time that he started in movies. There are his images in there, and they're very, I would say, he worked with a great deal of precision. I mean, you look at his focusing, everything's very deliberate, very formal, very mid-century, like very much the Look and Life magazine look that maybe is a bit of a cliche by now. But by then he was as cutting edge as anybody. And I would say that he worked with great precision and awareness of what it was that he was shooting to capture that actress or that particular model or that particular situation or the family that he's photographing. Was very cool. And if you're a Kubrick fan and you didn't know anything about this book is still available at Taschen. It's called Stanley Kubrick Photographs Through a Different Lens. That's cool. So getting away from Hollywood, if we go to music, the country music star Kenny Rogers was a fine art photographer. He did medium format, and he did some color work, I think, later in his career as a photographer. But
what kind of work? What did he do?
What I know him for is largely fine art, black and white. So some of it is travel work. That's very like he's got a picture of the Lincoln Memorial at night and taken from some distance in a long lens on a medium format, on a large format camera, probably 4x5. with the glow of the of the Lincoln statue inside the memorial, and then with darker tones, very, very finely crafted, with the tones and the pillars and the people going up the steps, and the glow, the nighttime glow is very, very arresting, very, very beautiful, fine artwork, good tones. I'm all about the tones,
Yeah.
So he did stuff like that. Another musician, well, they've got a couple of musicians here. Andy Summers from the guitar player from the band Police.
Yeah.
He picked up the camera when the Police started to get famous in the late 70s. His first book was he took during the tour of the Synchronicity album, or when that album came out in 82, 83.
Yeah, that was my first concert. By the way.
So his pictures are not so much about behind the scenes at the tour. It's just things that interested him while they were traveling. And so it's just kind of like, I saw this, I saw that. It's interesting from a point of view. And if you're an Andy Summers fan, if you're an Andy Summers completist, I think it's worth seeing. It's 35 millimeter Leica, very well, past competent, interesting and fun and thoughtful, I think, images. Another guy, Graham Nash from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. There's a guy who does all kinds of things. A lot of his images, I'd say the majority of the ones that we know of his, had to do again with privileged access, this time to being in CSNY, both with before Neil Young and with Neil Young. His images, portraits tend to be, I believe they're black and white, 35 millimeter. And I think there was some color later on. There was some color, but these guys, as they're, in his band playing, or just straight up portraiture, or he's got a picture of David Crosby standing in an airport reading a pulp novel, just stuff that that only he would see, or he could see.
And Nash was also known for his archival printing service that he established, the Nash editions, which was a lab. And I think he was one of the first people to privately own an iris printer.
Yeah, I think he bought one in 89. Now, an iris printer is like a large format color digital printer that you use for pre-press, right? It's
right. It was also like a precursor to inkjet printers. I mean, it's in that vein. I think that's how I'm not sure actually if that's how it worked. If it worked,
I think it was an inkjet. It was like It
was an inkjet. Yeah, I mean, I've got a couple of iris prints. I've had iris prints made, not from Nash's company, but I still have some iris prints. But his company still, produces. You can go and have your work, printed by him. And he's very into archivalness of photography. I did get a chance to meet him once at an interview, shake his hand, told him how much I liked his fine art printing, how much it meant, and he appreciated that.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Cool. And I guess I got one more photographer to speak of, and that's Leonard Nimoy. Now, you and I are both Trekkies.
Trekkies, yeah.
Trekkies. So our Mr. Spock. So his work was interesting in that what I know of his photography, a lot of it had to do with exploring and challenging the ideas of human beauty, mostly female beauty, the female form. And there are two projects that stand out in my mind. One's called Shekinah, and the other one's called the Full Body Project. Shekinah, I believe, is a Hebrew word. And now the meaning of it escapes me right now, but essentially the idea, the conceit of the book is the exploration of female beauty, pure female, godlike, divine beauty in the face of a profane world. So it's a kind of a complicated, premise. And so the pictures are very interesting and contemplative. And then the full body project is a project that he did very late in his life, I think after 2010 or just around 2010, somewhere in that time period, where his models are very large. So you'd say Rubenesque plus, I guess would be a polite way to say it. So,
Yeah.
So very large women. And the idea is what exactly is your idea of beauty? So look at these people, look at these women, and challenge your perspective. And so I think Nimoy did some very interesting work. I think, and I read one review of one of his books, and he said that he has an eye of a sculptor, and I really like that. I like the idea of the way they're lit, kind of the paleness of the skin of some of his models. They look like they're marble. I kind of like the idea of that. So if you're a Nimoy fan and Nimoy completist, there's those full body project and Shekinah. There's some other work that he's done as well as when he was a poet too. So there's poetry of his that's out there too.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
There's a book, I think it's called Warmed by Love, is it was one of his, I think it's a book. So that's Leonard Nimoy. And I think that's all.
That's quite a list.
It's quite a list. So it's not just, like I say, there's not just people who picked up, celebrities who out of vanity picked up a camera. These are actual legitimate artists that were doing their thing or are doing their thing to this day. And I think it's worth, a little bit of crossover, people entitled to do whatever they want to do. But anyway, there was one particular celebrity that you had found that was that really interested you. So tell me about her.
Okay, I will tell you. I'll tell everybody. Well, it's what triggered this idea for the show as well. I did not realize that Jessica Lange is a photographer. And I came across somewhere in the positive stuff about social media is like you follow the right people and you start to learn things. And somewhere along the line last week or something like that, a photograph of hers popped up, or actually a series of pictures, and someone was saying, Jessica Lange is a photographer and whatever. And I did some quick research and I was blown away by her work. What I was looking at was some of the pictures from a book. Her most recent book is called Highway 61. And what I've learned about that is Highway 61. She grew up in Minnesota and also spent a lot of time in New Orleans. And what I've learned is that the Highway 61 is sort of a route that goes straight down from Minnesota to the south to New Orleans. And so she's traveled that route a lot. And at some point in her life, she was Sam Shepard was her partner.
Okay.
And he gave her a Leica M6. And but she had already studied photography when she was at the University of Minnesota. I also didn't know that she was born and raised in Minnesota and that she had a scholarship there as well. So she's always had photography in her, but I think when she got incredibly serious about it, she started going off and doing these projects. But she's got I think 4 books right now. One that came out in 2008 called 50 Photographs, and it's a collection of her photography, black and white images from like 10 years worth of her work. It's a bunch of different subjects. And then I was curious about, I don't know if you've seen this, but she's got one about in Mexico she did in 2010. It's she used to take lots of trips to Mexico, and the book focuses on the landscapes and the people in everyday life. Her third book was 2013, Jessica Lange Unseen. And they were pictures earlier in her career that she had not shared before. And it's more personal stuff. But the most recent one, 2019, which there was a show in New York at I can't remember the name of the gallery. It was Highway 61, and it explores the North-South Highway stretching from Minnesota to Louisiana, and her travels along that. And it's mostly black and white photography. It's got a lot of the feel of the, a Robert Frank,
This is America kind of thing.
It's just, it's that. It surprised me, first of all. Like I'm so used to seeing her in, especially lately, in America Horror Stories,
Okay,
that series
TV show,
on
yeah.
Fox.
Yeah.
And she's the one, actor who appears in all the different series. She's, they use a lot of the same actors and different storylines. And I do remember I might have, and I'm not going to quote myself on it, but I might have met her when I was a kid, because they were filming with with Jeff Bridges.
Wow.
King Kong in New York, the remade version of it in the 70s, where
Right.
King Kong climbs the top of the World Trade Center. Yeah. And I was on the set when King Kong falls off the World Trade Center, and so there's this giant ape on the plaza of the World Trade Center with these fake bricks, that he kicked up. But anyway, so I was there on that set, and my mom knew all these people, so it is possible I met her. I just don't remember. So anyway, but and what was the name of the actress in the original
Fay Wray?
King Kong? It was Fay Wray?
Fay Wray, the screamer, yeah.
Yeah, it's Fay Wray. Okay,
Yep.
So yeah. Anyway, I don't know why I thought about that, but anyway, so looking at her work, actually, I got it someplace in front of me. Where is it? I don't actually have her pictures in front of me. Do I? I do not. But I started doing some searches for her, and I must be the last person on earth.
Well, I didn't know.
I
didn't know.
And what we were talking about before, that she's not just picking up a camera and doing, stuff like this. She knows what she's doing. She knows what she's taking pictures of. She's going and she's doing kind of a street photography style. She's going up to people and talking to them. She's talking about in some of her interviews that, there are people who recognize her, but there are a lot of people who don't recognize her, and she's not, someone who's always easily recognized as a Hollywood person.
Mm-hmm.
And, but, one of the things that I was reading about was that as an actor, and maybe many of the people we were talking about, when they have this sort of fame status, but with actors who, can sense something because of what they do. Like they are somewhat a little bit more tuned to how people react and how to maybe approach people. It's just because being an actor or movie actor or even a stage actor, you are able to read people. It's all about people.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wonder if that gives her some ability to, I don't know, be able to capture something or be able to see something in the subjects that she's photographing. So I don't know. I think that has some, legitimacy in what she's doing, but her pictures really are just, they were, pretty surprising, right?
Yeah, I'm going through them. I'm just looking at this one picture of this interior of this restaurant in New Orleans. I think I've been in that restaurant.
Yes. Really?
Well, the picture of Napoleon, I have a vivid memory in that archway. I think I know where that is. Because we were just my wife and I were in New Orleans in 2016, and I think we were in that restaurant.
Is that the one with the
waiter,
the waitress and the waiter
coming by?
Oh, with the waiter.
Yeah, because he's got a bow tie on. He's blurred. He's moving through the middle of the image.
I just found the gallery. It was the Howard Greenberg Gallery that she had a show from November 21st, 2019 to January 2020. So I'll put the link in the show notes, but the one I'm seeing is a diner. There's a picture of a diner with the waitress, and can see all the breakfast menus and stuff like that. But there is some, actually, I wonder if I should send you the link so you can see the same pictures I'm looking at.
I can see, yeah, she's kind of bent over the table, and there's the menu.
Yeah. And it's funny because these are more, I would say, more modern pictures, but they certainly look like they were pulled out of time. Like she's going down this road and grabbing, people and locations that are they look like they're stopped in time, but they're not. They're more, they're more recent pictures. There's this one shot of a gentleman in a room with like all these dolls, like hundreds and hundreds of dolls against the wall and on shelves and stuff like that. She goes for the grainy look too.
Right.
So her work's black and white. It's very grainy. So anyway, it was a surprise to me. This was the whole idea with like, I knew there were some celebrities who were photographers, but for some reason Jessica Lange was just, and I didn't realize how good her work was. Like, this work is very, very compelling. It's worth buying a book if there is a book of this work.
I'm definitely going to get one if I can find one. Just what I've seen.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Lens Culture magazine here. I guess it's a review of the book with 8 or 10 images from it. So that's very.
I also didn't know she was from Minnesota, so I was like,
that part I did know. I did know she was from Minnesota, but I didn't know about the photography part.
Yeah. So you can do a search for her on YouTube. There's a bunch of interviews with her about her photography.
Oh, great! That's the best.
Yeah. I didn't know that she was. I don't know why I didn't know she was partnered with Sam Shepard. So, what a combination those two.
Great playwright.
Yeah. Also, great looking couple too, I would say. So, they're both beautiful looking people. So they must have made a heads turn when I walked by. But it was really cool that he gave her a camera. I think he got it from a movie too. From a movie set. So I guess if you're Sam Shepard, you could walk off the movie set with a Leica.
Maybe Jessica could take her wardrobe with her, I don't know. Whatever.
Yeah. So it's just, to find that not only are these folks doing these things in front of the camera, but they're doing behind it, and how they get access because of who they are, which they can use to the benefits of taking, really cool pictures. If you're able to say, I'm this person and I can get in someplace, and, that's cool too, and by them sharing what they're seeing, I'm thinking of Jeff Bridges behind the scenes stuff, or even like, we didn't talk about him, but Gary Oldman was also a photographer. He's done some behind the scenes stuff as well. And who else was I going to say? I think when you were talking about musicians, I thought Ringo Starr also did photography of the Beatles earlier on.
I know there's a book from McCartney that just came out in the last year or so.
Yeah.
That he just happened, I think it was in 1964. It was just a very brief time where he picked up the camera. Now, I have not gone through that book, so I don't know whether it's any good or not. I think there's certain interest in it for sure. But I did not know about Ringo Starr.
Ringo Starr took pictures. I mean, Harrison did as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's this great selfie of him in front of the Taj Mahal that I remember. I mean, I guess it was something that a lot of people did. A lot of people carried cameras with them. So, I mean, today we all have cameras.
Yeah.
But let me think about my Jessica Lange. So, yeah. Well, anyway, I would spend some time with her work. Definitely worth seeing. And I think she's coming out with another book. There's also, that's what I heard, there's also going to be a documentary about her and her photography.
Oh, fantastic.
That's being produced now. I don't know what the name of it is, and but when I was researching her for this, I did see that there was this documentary coming out with her. And there's just, like I said, on YouTube, there's a few interviews with her about her photography. And I think there's one with 60 Minutes or CBS or something like that, where she's walking and talking, photographing on the edge of Lake Superior, I think.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But anyway, yeah.
Back home in Minnesota,
but,
maybe.
Yeah, it's great to see. It's a pleasure to see this work from these people who I'm so used to seeing in other situations, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And in a sense, it's almost like we have this connection with them too as celebrities. You know, it's like, well, we're sort of seeing the same thing, or we appreciate the same thing, and that means that we're all sort of brothers and sisters in light.
Mm-hmm.
That's sort of in a way, you know.
Yeah. Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. It was, again, a surprise. It's sort of like what we were doing last episode. It's like a new photographer who pops up on our timeline. This is someone who's not necessarily a new photographer, but I just wasn't aware of what she did and then how good she is. Yeah. And all the photographers we're talking about, you know, Dennis Hopper and Bridges and Graham Nash and all these guys are just taking really, really good work. And so, yeah. I think that's about it. That's all I could say about her. So I didn't see any of her work at the AIPAD show. Darn it.
There's something wrong there.
There is something.
Gotta sell a few more books, maybe.
You know what? I was curious. I wonder if the Greenberg Gallery was there, and maybe I didn't see them, because I would be surprised. There's a lot of main galleries at that show. So anyway, yeah. All right.
Cool.
Yeah. So, and I think that just wraps that part up, but I completely forgot to mention at the top of the show, so I'll mention it now. I want to say thank you to some of our listeners who bought us some coffees. I totally spaced out, but now I remembered. So I want to thank Justin Jones, who bought us 3 coffees. He says, still my favorite photography podcast.
Yay, thank you, sir.
Thank you so much to hear that. Our sister in light, Sid, bought us a coffee. and her comment was still the favorite photography podcast of Justin Jones. And
good one, Sid.
Good one, Sid. Thanks, Sid. And John Wayne, not that John Wayne, the other John Wayne, also bought us a coffee in March, and I forgot to mention him to say thanks. So I want to make sure I say thanks to everybody. We didn't forget, although I did, but want to make sure all you guys buying us coffee means I'm caffeinated for the rest of the year. But no, thanks for supporting the show and buying us coffees. So
thank you very much.
Yeah. So that's the end of this. Where are we looking for you in the world, my friend?
You can find me on Vero and X, formerly Twitter, at
X.
Yeah. At W Rosin Photo. That doesn't feel natural. X.
No, it doesn't.
On Instagram, you can find me at Ward Rosin Fine Art, where right now, if you hurry, you can see pictures of inflatable dinosaurs. On Facebook, you can find me at Ward Rosin Photo, and my website is rosin.ca. That's rosin.ca. And our unofficial sponsor is my little website where I sell 7 Artisans and Photodiox adapters and 7 Artisans lenses, and that is ornis.photo, ornis.photo. And what about you, my friend? Where can we find you?
Well, wait, before we do that, are you gonna get that 7 Artisans tilt shift lens?
I'm thinking about it. I've gotta get a few more sales before I have enough to make another order from.
Yeah, well, there's a 7 Artisans tilt shift lens that's available for X mount and M43, and I think Sony as well. Maybe It's like $225.
Tilt and shift. Well, okay. Well, I've got some ideas.
It's a 50. It's a 50 millimeter. So
that's
on the Fuji. On the Fuji, it's an 85 or 75. So.
Yeah. Pretty long for a tilt shift. I wouldn't have thought it would.
Well, my Nikon tilt shift was an 85 millimeter.
Really?
In the first.
I always think of them as being wider for architectural. Well, what do I know?
Well, that's a perspective controlling lens. Anyway.
Oh, okay. We're getting into the weeds here.
PC lenses. Yeah, there's a bunch of. Well, that's for a later discussion. So.
Alrighty.
Yeah. Oh, you were asking.
So yeah, where can we find you with all this distraction going on?
You can find me sitting in front of my computer, not much. I'm going to just say Vero and Flickr at AM Rosario. I'm going to give up on X. Instagram at AM Rosario Photo, PHOTO. Website is amrosario.com. Our website, streetshots.photography. And we've had a lot of people subscribe to our Substack newsletter lately. So that was great. Barry and X gave us a shout out. He signed up. And so sign up for our streetshots.substack.com newsletter, which I put out one recently, and I'm getting inspired to do another one. So do that. And you can leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/streetshots. So it's great if you have a question, you want to have a discussion with us, just drop us a line. And if you do want to support the team, like Sid and who else? Sid and John and Justin. You can buy us a coffee at buymeacoffee.com/Antonio Rosario. So there you go.
Very cool.
Very cool. Yeah. Thank you. Thanks so much. And thanks for teaching me about all these celebrity photographers. Some of them I didn't know.
Yeah, I'm happy to do it, and it's kind of cool. I mean, I do watch some of these behind the scenes, actors sitting around a table talking about the creative process and stuff. That sometimes it interests me, sometimes it doesn't, depending on the egos. But I really like this whole idea of many of them that we know and like from the screen are also very good at photography, and that's the best, I think.
Yeah. All right, my friend and everybody. Thanks for hanging out with us tonight. Thanks for hanging out with me tonight, Ward. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. And for everybody else, we'll see you in a couple of weeks. And enjoy your springtime for those of us having spring. And those of you on the other side of the world, enjoy your fall, autumn time. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks. All right. Good night.
Good night. So
how many altogether again?
The count, this is the first time they're counting it by drone. So everyone that came in that was in the inflatable outfit got a wristband. So there's the potential of how many people there. Then they're flying over with a drone and they're using AI to count the number of people who fit the profile. So they're saying it's over 2,000.
And the world record before was
186. Yeah. So we just obliterated it.